landing.
Yes.
And that then we have multiple high-level NASA witnesses who testify to a colloquy that went back and forth on the special secret communication channel. This was not part of the public media, between Apollo 11 and the mission control in Houston, in which the colloquy goes to something to the effect of, gee, Houston, there are these very large craft at the edge of the crater, and no, they do not look like they want us to be here. And in subsequent dialogue, which was publicly reported, Buzz Aldrin and others state that no, we did not stop going to the moon of our own volition. It was clear that the extraterrestrials did not want us building moon bases there.
Oh,
we
really?
were chased off.
Really?
Yeah. So, and then there have been other reports of lights on the moon, very large lights, and also of explosions. So there may be industrial activity going on the moon, mining going on the moon, and these may have been accidents. We don't know the exact nature of these, but it's clear that there are reports of activity on the moon other than from the Apollo missions. Then Robert Dean at the 2009 Exopolitics Summit in Spain reported that, yes, the U.S. has bases both on the moon and on Mars.
Really?
And one of the witnesses there, Henry Deacon, it's a pseudonym, who's a former employee, top secret, of the National Security Agency, NSA. He's now defected from the NSA, stated on camera that he has been to Mars, that there's a teleportation corridor between Earth and Mars that takes people from Earth to a base on Mars, and that he has been there to participate in meetings at one of the bases there, in which his Martian counterparts from an intelligent civilization that lives under the surface of Mars, were present around the table. So it's clear from whistleblower testimony, and also from the testimonies of Sergeant Carl Wolf, a whistleblower, and also from the testimonies of Buzz Aldrin and high NASA employees who have verified this colloquy taking place at the time of the landing of Apollo 11, that both Mars and the moon are populated, and that there's testimony that there are bases on Mars, and
Alfred, I want to ask you something here about in regards to NASA as well. As far as what I've heard, at least, that NASA is actually a military program, and I think even Buzz Aldrin mentioned that in a recent interview he did on C-SPAN, that he was one of his honor as a military was to salute the American flag up on the moon and all that. But which then implies that NASA is a military program. So, do you think that this could be about the expansion or starting of a war in some kind, or do you think that this is, as you alluded to a little bit earlier, simply about actually covering up some kind of previous civilizations or evidence for that on the moon now when other nations are beginning to get their eyes on the moon? China, India, what have you. What do you think, Alfred?
Well, I wouldn't want to speculate, but we can speculate. I think that you have raised all of the possibilities. We know that the moon, there's good evidence, and NASA has had evidence that the moon is inhabited since at least 1965, and that's a matter of public record now. So, for it to take acts with a kinetic weapon, a 2-ton kinetic weapon, which per se of itself violates international and space law, that's sort of adding, layers of violation. If in fact there is a hostile intent to these, to the L-Cross mission, which if scientists say that it's an inappropriate design and what should have been used is a lunar rover, then I think that there's a threshold of possibility has been reached where L-Cross may not only be a violation of the treaties from an environmental point of view, but also from a hostilities point of view, because all three of the treaties, that is, the Outer Space Treaty, the Moon Treaty, and the Treaty Against Environmental Modification, all three of those flatly prohibit any act of war or hostility in space, and especially on the moon, which is the first celestial body that humanity has been focusing on publicly. Now, we know that to talk about your question about NASA being a military agency, that has many levels to it, and it's a complex issue. But yes, when NASA was originally formed by the National Aeronautic and Space Act of 1958, it was formed as a civilian agency, and space in that act was forever dedicated to the civilian population of Earth. And the mission of NASA was to explore space from a civilian scientific point of view and to share its knowledge with the population. Now, what occurred are two things. First of all, we know that since at least 1971, the U.S. government, in the form of the Central Intelligence Agency, CIA, has been having a secret liaison relationship of some sort with the intelligent civilization that lives under the surface of Mars.
Really?
And that's because U.S. whistleblower Andrew D. Bashago states that in the company of his father, who was a CIA agent, he met with 3 Martian astronauts at Curtiss Wright Air Force Base in 1971. Also, that in 1980, on 2 separate occasions, he went to Mars in the company of a CIA agent, Courtney Hunt. So we have all the specific names, and he went from a CIA teleportation facility to Mars that's located in El Segundo, California. So we have all of these dates from his whistleblower testimony. And you can go to exopolitics.com for more information on Mr. Bashago's activities with regard to Mars, including the discovery of life forms and animal forms in NASA photographs from the Mars rover Spirit. Now, so we know all of these things as facts now from whistleblowers. And